All right. Call to order. We'll start with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to
Allegiance
the
to the
flag
flag
of the
of
United
the United
States
States of America and to the republic
and to
for
the
which it
republic
stands,
for which it stands,
Under God,
one
one
nation,
nation, under
under
God,
God,
justice.
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice for
for
all.
all.
Okay.
Open Public Meetings Act statement. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies, at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Augusta, Branchville, and Sussex post offices, and the notice sent to the New Jersey Herald, the Star Ledger, and the clerk of the boroughs of Branchville and Sussex, and the townships of Frankfurt, Lafayette, and Wantage. Mission statement. High Point Regional High School, in partnership with staff, family, and community, is dedicated to the quest for individual excellence. By fostering high standards of achievement, we prepare students to become responsible and productive members of a diverse society. We have a roll call.
Mrs. Anderson,
Here.
Mr. Ancliffe,
Here.
Mr. Caraza,
Present.
Mr. Dunn.
Here.
Mr. Arnold,
Here.
Miss Nugent,
Here.
Ms. Smith is absent. Mr. Dona,
Here.
Mr. Kehoe,
Present.
and Dr. Ripley.
Here.
Executive session. A motion will be made that the High Point Regional High School Board of Education enter executive session to provide an update on legal, personnel, and negotiation items which are exempt from the public participation pursuant to New Jersey Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, Open Public Meetings Act. Any discussions held by the board which need not remain confidential will be made public when appropriate. Minutes of the executive session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. The board will reconvene in public session virtually at the conclusion of the executive session. It is not anticipated that any action will be taken. Do I have a motion to go to executive session?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing nobody opposed,
We have the minutes from the regular meeting of July 28th, 2020, and the executive session minutes from July 28th, 2020. I need a motion.
So
Motion.
moved. Second.
All right, roll call. Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe,
Yes.
Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Miss Nugent. Miss Nugent,
Patty?
that's all right. She's,
Yes, she said yes.
okay, thank you. Mr. Dona
Yes.
and Dr. Kehoe.
Yes. The next is public comments. These are for agenda items only. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, we'll open the public comments for agenda items only at this time. Each speaker should state, we'll list the name and address in order for me to read the comment. And I'll take 3 minutes to read the comment. If it's longer, I'll stop at the end. We're going to limit this to a total of 45 minutes, and please keep your comments respectful. Starting with the first comment that we have. And this is from a Doug Siemiński from Frankfurt. It states, a recent well-publicized study showed that a multi-layered cloth mask was 14 times more effective than a bandana or gaiter face covering in terms of diminishing the spread of respiratory droplets. Other studies have shown that one-way valve masks are almost completely ineffective for preventing the spread of respiratory droplets. As the CDC and WHO guidelines recommend, multi-layered cloth masks or medical grade masks for the public, when will the Board of Ed release a definition of a proper mask for our school in an effort to keep our students, teachers, staff, and community safe? As the virus is predominantly spread through respiratory droplets, this issue is vitally important. That's the only comment we have at this time. If more comments come in, there is a comment section at the end of the meeting, and I'll read them at that time. Right now, we're going to go to presentations. The first presentation is Student Council. Student Council has no report to present. The next presentation is for the HPEA. The HPEA has no report, and the representative is not present, but they have sent a concerns to the board, which I will read in lieu of their being present for their presentation. Dear members of the board, hoping all is well with everyone. We know the time is upon us to openly consider the needs of all of our stakeholders who are greatly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic in many ways, educationally, emotionally, socially, and medically. We also know that the information and honest communication are two of the most powerful instruments we have at our disposal right now. Thus, the HPEA formed a committee of educators this past weekend who diligently compared High Point's reopening plan against NJEA's recommended practices for basic health and safety in school reopening plans.
Bill froze. You froze, Bill.
I can continue
Sorry.
it. Oh, you got it, Bill?
I
Did I continue?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, I'm going to continue. It is evident
thank you.
It is evident in these findings that there are still numerous gaps between High Point's reopening plan and the practices identified by the NJEA. Again, we need to be clear. This communication is in no way intended to denigrate our administration's actions toward reopening. We recognize and appreciate all that has been put into place and all the time and effort reflected in High Point's plan. However, in light of these current unprecedented circumstances, we all must act with the utmost regard for the safety of all our stakeholders, students, teachers, support staff, and their families. We must look again. The HPEA is requesting that this email in its entirety be included with the public record, and with it, the following two documents: the NJEA's recommended practices for basic health and safety in school reopening plans, and the attached list containing HPEA members' concerns. Please note this list does not attempt to fully capture and communicate each and every uncertainty felt by each and every member. Considering the ever-shifting backdrop of a local pandemic, this task would not be possible. Rather, we view this document as a representative snapshot of a much larger landscape. There are other options to consider aside from an in-person start to the school year that may further ensure everyone's health and safety. While the HPEA is eager to resume life in our physical classrooms with our students present in the building, it is only prudent to do so when everyone's safety can be assured. The risk of potentially losing one child, one teacher, one support staff employee, or any member of our High Point community is unacceptable risk to take. Especially the long-term effects of COVID-19 are still uncertain. We know as educators that knowledge is powerful, but in this unique case, caution may prove to be an even more valuable asset to our school. And it's from Carla Mancuso, the HPEA president.
Thank you, Gail. I think I'm back on, so I'll try to take back over.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. The next one will be the principal's report. Mr. Talamay?
Thank you, Dr. Keough. Just trying to make sure I get all my things turned on here. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. Just wanted to give a quick update on the where we're at as a school in terms of the opening. We continue to work every single day as an administrative team, support staff, custodial staff, maintenance staff, and everybody in between to provide a safe and healthy opening. So thank you to that team for working so diligently on that plan on a regular, everyday basis. In addition, one of the things I want to update the board on is we were able to distribute Chromebooks to about 650 of our students already. The administrative team was led by Mr. Perry, Mr. Yardley. Mr. Perry helped us organize the Chromebooks in a fantastic fashion, and we were able to distribute those over 4 days, 650 Chromebooks over 4 days, as well as collect school materials from our 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. So that was quite the undertaking, but very happy with the assistance of our parents and our students in getting that done and getting Chromebooks that are assigned to them for their both in-seat learning as well as their remote learning. The in-seat learning will help with cutting down and eliminating the need for paper and exchange of materials by using Google Classroom. And then the remote learning aspect, obviously, they'll have that Chromebook assigned to them to utilize and help them with a device at home, or help them share a device at home if they have siblings. And then we're also working on resources for students that may not have access to the internet as well. The plan is still to get about 190 Chromebooks out over the next couple of days for families that were away or whatever it may have been. So we're looking to get as many in the hands of our students as we can over the course of time. So again, I just wanted to thank Mr. Perry for streamlining that process, coordinating that process, because without him, we would not be able to do that. Switching gears a little bit, talk about athletics, Dr. Keough, if that's okay as well. We have started officially our fall season, I guess, for lack of a better term, if we have phrased it that. The NJSA has revamped and changed that several times. And football and cheerleading were heading into phase 2 of the fall sports season. All our fall sports started this week under the leadership of Mr. Meyer, Mr. Dexter, and all of our coaches. Thank you again for the community effort, because it really is a community effort with all the new things that have to put in place, all the forms that have to be completed prior, and all the protocols that the parents and student athletes have to follow. So this week looks like a beautiful week. So it'll be great for them to have a nice cooler week to start their fall sports season off. Then there will be a 2-week gap, basically a 2-week, what they say, rest period, virtual period only, that the NJSA has instituted as the fall sports season is delayed until September 30th, October 1st, October 2nd, depending on what sport the students are participating. That's the update for sports as of right now. We know contingent upon any changes that we have from the NJSA, and we'll continue to update you. So it was good to see some student athletes involved in social distancing activities, but involved with being together in some type of school activities again. So that was a nice thing to see over the course of the last couple of weeks. And that's all I have, unless anybody has any particular questions.
Thanks.
Thank you, John. If we can move to Mr. Campbell for curriculum and instruction. You're muted.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Keogh. I'd like to attempt to share my screen here. If I could, a second here. Trying here. All right, thanks for your patience. Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
All right, terrific. Great amount. Thank you, Mr. Talamay, for being brief. I assume that means you cede your time to the junior senator from Beamerville, and I will fill the gap as quickly as possible. I want to commend my friend, Mr. Talamay. I have to tell you that I would have liked to have given Chromebooks out in about 2 days because it's hot and I don't like being outside in the heat. But John spaced it out over about 6 days. And it was really, really nice because as the students and really the families drove up in their cars, it was incredibly well organized. But I think Mr. Dunn was there. You sometimes forget, and you saw it on their faces, that these are students who may not have been on campus since March 13th. And so it's kind of emotional for some of them probably to come up and to see Ms. LeDuc and Mr. Diodino and Big Al and Mr. Talamay greeting them there. And it was a chance to just spend 30 seconds with them, reassuring them that we're here, we can't wait to see them, and we care about them. So great job to our principal for organizing that. Our reopening task force has had 3 meetings, and our 4th meeting will be 1 week from tonight. And it is our plan for that meeting to be a hybrid to mirror what the students will experience. We will have the opportunity to meet on campus, and the public will be welcome to attend on site, in addition to the way that they've been meeting all along, which is via a hybrid approach. We have had, I think, about 92 people signed up, and we had about 85 participants. And that was Dr. Ripley's vision, that every single member of the community had the opportunity. So we had students, we had parents, we had staff, and then we had residents who didn't actually fulfill any of those roles. And we really appreciate their input. Again, 700 responses via surveys, more than 15 meetings with the task force, and multiple meetings with the staff. And our reopening plan, the board authorized the plan at the July meeting. I suspect that this plan will be on the September and perhaps the October agenda, because we like to say in the COVID world, a week is 6 months. The guidelines come out at rapid pace, and we respond on a daily basis. We submitted this to the county office, and the executive superintendent, Dr. Lamont, sent it back to us and asked if we would add or bolster our section that covered these 6 areas, which we did. We added a whole component on full-time remote learning. We had an application on the portal that was open to all families. We believe at this point about 113 students are going to select that option. That represents about 13% of our student population. The plan was expanded to have more specifics about how we will accommodate high-risk staff and students. Last week, Dr. Ripley emailed all staff members and made them aware of various leave options and invited all of them to email him and set up an appointment to privately discuss any concerns they have about their own health, their family members' health, childcare leave, or leave for a relative. So staff members have been contacting him and having those private conversations. In a moment, you'll see some information about HVAC and ventilation, more also about hand washing. And we did add to the plan the specific plan that parents at home will be the primary source of taking temperatures. Only when a student shows up at school and appears symptomatic or didn't have their temperature taken at home will we then take it at school. But if I could just for a minute break away from this, and I'd like to share with you a document that we sent out to the staff today. I want to thank Mr. Diodino for putting the slideshow together, Ms. Briggs for taking the photos, and Stefan McGrath for his work in helping us create this. So last Wednesday, August 12th, the administration met with the HPA executives. We had a very productive meeting. And what we decided together was, look, the reopening plan is 100 pages and growing. I understand it's not user-friendly, but it is extremely broad. So some of the executive members said perhaps something a little more condensed, a little more user-friendly, maybe with some pictures. And so we came up with this construct. We worked on it on Thursday and Friday. This morning we created it and we shared it out with the staff today. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I also sent out a video explaining the slides, but it talks about ventilations in classroom windows, the rate and quantity of air that is exchanged per minute and per hour. It's got pictures of what we're talking about. The windows do open at a greater level. Although it looks old school, perhaps, the degree of air circulation in many of our classrooms is in excess of what code requires. That air is filtered, and it's a thorough process that Mr. McGrath spent 2 hours this morning explaining to the administration any question that we might have. ES64, Enviro Cleaner, is the standard cleaner that we use. Disinfectant wipes have been installed in every classroom. Equipment, this device mixes the Enviro 64 solution to make sure that the concentration is both safe and effective. Here's the equipment that we purchased, much of it through the CARES Act. We have sprayers, we have foggers, there's some photos of it, and there's our awesome staff. We all cherish the legacy of having perhaps the finest facility in the state of New Jersey, and we love our dedicated staff that works, maintaining that legacy, and they have a lot of pride, and they've been using that stuff every day. Most of this has always been in the reopening plan, but I just want to highlight that every single day, touch points or high frequent touch points, door handles, light switches, desktops will be cleaned and disinfected every day, every room by our staff. In the classroom, we will have hand sanitizer dispenser. Students will clean their hands when they enter the room and clean their hands when they leave the room. And please, I apologize if some of my terminology is off. I say clean, I mean sanitize or disinfect. Also, students will be given disinfectant sanitizing wipes, and they will clean the top of the surface that they used at the end of each class. And in case students, if students prefer, when they enter the next class, they'll also have the option to re-clean it in case they don't feel it was properly cleaned by the person before them. So the cleaning of surfaces, a desk used by a student is disinfected 3 or 4 times throughout the day, and then thoroughly sanitized and cleaned by the staff in the evening. Same procedures with high concentrated areas, water bottle filling stations, door handles, glass areas, cleaned and disinfected every single day. Our procedure for restrooms, close down half of them, and the ones that are closed, clean and disinfect, cycle, close the ones that were used, and then clean and disinfect. I believe our plan will be to limit 1 student per time into each restroom. Students needing to use it will wait in an area that's marked 6 feet apart. We will track who uses the restrooms. It will be very, very, very thorough and structured. We have thousands of pieces of PPE equipment and thousands more on the way. Masks, gloves, gowns, shields, face coverings, etc. We will be providing face coverings to all staff and students, and those other PPEs to staff that need them. Our signage is welcoming. It sends the message that you have a responsibility to participate. It will be throughout the building, and hats off to Mr. Drellick, Mr. Talamay. I think they were Ms. LeDuc. Everybody really worked on this a great deal. And here's some more information about our supplies. So in the video we sent out today, I also said to the staff, oh, by the way, I believe it's slides 26 to 40 in the reopening plan that also addresses all of those. I have then linked that PowerPoint that I just created. It's now embedded as well into the 15 slides in the reopening plan that address cleanliness. So the message to me is we are in a privileged position to lead during the time of concern, and we are happy to get to collaborate and come up with what the staff needs and to push that out and to communicate. So we believe that was an effective step today to really try and push out some more information. On this evening's agenda, the board is being asked to approve an August 31st virtual training program that will replace the January 18th in-service. All staff and students would be off on that Monday. We are looking forward to this program because we want to give training on safety protocols to all our staff before they all come into the building that following Tuesday. So we believe that Monday the 31st in-service program will be effective. We also have a commitment to touch on justice and equity and inclusion and make sure that when our kids return that they know we weren't living in a vacuum. We're ready to embrace the social issues that are prevalent in their world. Program of studies has a few minor changes. Midterm and finals will be suspended for the coming year, which means marking period grades are very simple, 25% per marking period. Lab science courses are now the same number of minutes as any other course. So to reflect that properly, they've been reduced from 6 credits to 5. Social and emotional learning is a key component of supporting our students. Pass It Along has provided, last year they provided a 3-day in-service workshop for all 9th and 10th graders that was really well received. Our partnership with them has also put us to be one of the lead schools that works with SCCC and Thor Labs to establish some career track programs. And Ms. LeDuc has got us working with Teacher Coach. That is on the agenda this evening because it is free, but there is advertisement, and I know that can be sensitive. The one advertisement on Teacher Coach is a financial planning service program targeted to faculty who use the service. And we believe that's a fair trade-off for a significant amount of free content. The curriculum maps are on the agenda. It is a requirement each year that they be authorized. Our maps are public. The creation of the maps is a collaborative process that helps ensure that teachers are teaching to the same standards and sharing best practices. The maps have pacing guides, and it's an approach where each unit focuses on the big essential question of the topic. And so those are on for the agenda. I want to thank 8 faculty members who worked with more than 50 students in July to address skill deficiencies, and 41 of the students that worked with our teachers earned back credit they had lost in the spring and will now enter September in a much better position to be on track to matriculate and graduate. We were not able to find a leave replacement for Spanish. Physics, computer science, and Spanish perhaps are the 3 disciplines, not just Spanish, but world language, where there's a national shortage. Mr. Diodino did a phenomenal job. He vetted 4 different virtual providers and came up with proximity learning. It's cost effective. They will provide a significant amount of synchronous live support. And it is it's also going to be supported by our existing teachers. And we're happy that we have something we're confident will be effective for those students for the first marking period until that leave staff member returns. We don't know what the metrics will be for our CUSAC monitoring. We know what they were. Then they eliminated testing last year. We know that the plan is still for us to be monitored this coming winter. So I'd like to thank these 12 staff members and board members for continuing to serve on our CUSAC team. Once we find out when and how we'll be monitored, we can kind of restart that program and make sure we're prepared. The handbooks for staff and student are on this evening's agenda. They will also reappear on the board's agenda for your consideration in September. Ms. Leduc has done a great job working on our student handbook, but we need to point out that the changes are coming down at such a pace that between now and the end of September, they'll look a little bit different. And perhaps after 2 weeks of instruction, we'll know what we might want to add in them to make sure that they're better representative of what we expect from staff and students. Almost done here. Thank you for your patience. Dan Yardley and Brian Drellick are spearheading a redesign of our website. And the first step of that is to redo our reopening, to redo our COVID portal. We have an awesome website, but I think this happens in every institution. It just gets more and more and more information. And every 2 to 3 years, we need to, like cleaning out your closet. We kind of have to pare it down and streamline it. And we think it's going to have a great look and be very user-friendly. And that is it.
Well done.
Thank you, sir.
Mr.
Thank
Campbell,
Yes.
we had a comment about the masks that are good and not good by one of our constituents. Can you address, do you have an understanding of the type of mask that you're going to be supplying, or can you look at the comment and get back to us next month on that?
Sure. I can tell you right now that we have made a clear decision, no pun intended, that the clear face shields do not meet the CDC guidelines, as frustrating as that is, because so many of our students learn by visual cues. But we're going to have to go with traditional cloth masks at all times. I believe, I'm not sure, that we're probably very likely that we will prohibit the gaiters, because in the last 10 days, many studies have come out questioning the efficacy of those face shields. So we absolutely will have information out with guidelines on the masks.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
Mr. Campbell, I have a question. I have 2 questions, so I apologize. But so first of all, in the original reopening plan, there was going to be temperature checks at the door for every student that came. And you said at the beginning of your presentation tonight that has now changed. Can you explain a little bit of the reasoning why we're no longer doing that?
Sure. And I think, and I don't want to be, not trying to be legalistic or technical, I believe we purposely worded that as all students will be checked before entering the building, but left it without being specific that staff would do that on site for all students. What happened? Here's an example, great example of how things transpire in a 3-week period. Late July, mid-July, every school thermometers, everybody's taking a forehead scan, every student, every day, period. That gradually began to evolve to the point where now I don't believe it's the commonly recommended approach, but rather the approach is put the onus on parents, because these students will be getting on a bus. We need parents to be partners, to assume that responsibility, to take their temperature. We've ordered 300 thermostats to distribute to families who may need one or an extra one. But the idea is that first, we put that onus on the parent to screen them and take their temperature before they arrive. We then, and the HPA brought this up, the concern about the accuracy. There's this sense that does sending your child off to school without perhaps being invested in screening them and assuming, oh, well, they'll get their temperature check. Does that kind of encourage a false sense of security when we know that such a high percentage of people that do have the virus don't demonstrate a temperature? So we're relying more on the survey and what the staff and the parent tell us about the students' symptoms or lack of symptoms. But then when they come here and we check them in and we check their form, if they didn't complete the form or if there's any question about material they left on the form, then we will do a temperature check on site. So we have our scanners, we're prepared, but our general approach for all students will not be to scan them on site unless there's cause arises.
Okay. And then my second question relies a little bit on insider knowledge from 5-6 years ago when I was at High Point. One of the things you talked about in your ventilation slide was how much the windows open and stuff like that. Back when I was there, half the windows didn't open. Have those all been checked and made sure that the windows are all operational and so on and so forth? Yes,
they've been checked, and that angle is about 50% greater than. I get very nervous talking to engineers and people like that when I start talking about angles. But all windows have been checked. They all open, and we've increased the degree to which they open while still maintaining being within code as far as egress and safety. So, but many of us miss the old windows. The old windows were built in 1968. They'd slide open. You could hop in and hop out. They weren't very good on your utility bill, but.
Mr. Campbell, I don't intend to put you on the spot here, but you did mention something about some concerns from the HPEA, and Mr. Kehoe read a letter from the association earlier addressed to the board. Is there anything in their concerns that gives you pause that we are not 100% ready to reopen?
I would have to respectfully decline at this time because the last 3 days, the weekend, have been so busy that I have read their concerns. At this time, no. Let me restate that. I will answer you that at this time, I do not have any concerns regarding reopen relative to the concerns that they presented. To be honest, many of them, in my interpretation, were questions that we can clarify. So, for example, one of the first ones was how do we handle students who are here in the day and then they have sports? They're not staying through. So it's an easy clarification. Students will have to get transportation to come back to school. And we're down the road, they might, and we will have to provide a safe eating area for them once we get to that point. But a lot of them, I think, are seeking clarification, and we are eager. We want to do that. We want to find out what the question is, the concern is. But
Thank you, Mr. Campbell, for responding to that. I think it was very gracious of you to respond to that, and I appreciate it. You've put in an amazing amount of work, along with the rest of the administrative team, who have put in countless hours. And the reason I want to interject here is that I don't want the onus of responsibility to rest with Mr. Campbell or anyone else. And I think that I think he handled it in a very diplomatic manner. I just want to make sure that his thoughts are not segregated from the thoughts of the administrative team in the process of moving forward. I'm not trying to quell his response or quiet him or shush him, but I want to honor his position, in that it is not Mr. Campbell's position to determine the efficacy of whether the NJEA or the HPEA or anyone else's concerns. He's worked diligently to answer every one of those, and we believe that we have provided sufficient responses. And what we believe is that we have worked exceedingly hard to ensure the safety of our students and our staff, and that we believe that we have put in the procedures and the guidelines to conform fully with the oversight authorities under which we function, the New Jersey Department of Health, the New Jersey Department of Education, and to a lesser extent, the federal government, CDC. And while we respect the input of the NJEA, we believe that we've responded to their concerns, and we're hopeful to continue to meet with them. We have a meeting with them on Thursday to further discuss any concerns they may have. This is a fluid process, and we're getting information in drips and drabs sometimes in waves from the state government. And what we want to do is ensure that we are responsive to each one of those guidelines, so that, and we speak individual and we speak corporately with the education.
Oh.
I lost you, Scott.
Yeah, my apologies. I did not mean to put anybody on the spot of making a statement to that effect. I want to go on the record of saying, of commending everyone that's been involved in developing the reopening plan. I've been involved with the task force myself and have participated in meetings, and although not personally doing much of anything other than observing, I have observed that there's been an awful lot of work put into that reopening plan. So I didn't mean it to be contrary. Actually, quite the opposite.
I just have one quick question, if I can. I don't know who can answer it. Some people seem to have left. You mentioned about the students cleaning the desks and having wipes and stuff like that. Are those like Lysol wipes, or are they like hand sanitizing wipes? Just because I'm questioning like what the kids can touch.
There was a power outage apparently at the school. I just receiving.
Yeah, we lost Mr. Campbell and Dr. Ripley.
Oh my gosh.
And Dr. Kehoe too.
So let's hold on. We don't even know if we're online.
Yeah.
I just got back on.
Okay, looks like it's live.
Dan, are we still streaming?
Yes, you're currently streaming. I'm going to pause it for a minute so that we can wait for them to get back up.
Okay.
We can stay.
I can jump in, Gail. The board office has a different power line in the school, so I'm on and they're off. But the wipes that will be in the classrooms, to answer your question, if I could, are not Lysol wipes. They are standard, and I wish I had one right here. I just threw my last group out, get some more tomorrow. They're standard cleaning wipes with the Envirowall 64 that was part of the PowerPoint before. So there is some concerns perhaps about students and handling those wipes, and that has been brought up in our subcommittees. We said if there is that concern, we can also provide gloves as well as wipes. And again, it's a process of building that community, that it's not just the custodian's job or the teacher's job or the administrator's job. It's all of our jobs to be part of that. So that's the in-between cleaning, because it's impossible to have every classroom disinfected to a full extent and still have the ability to have those classes. So the minimum requirements are at a daily requirement of disinfecting, and that's what the CDC and also the NJDOH guidelines present. So we will be way above the minimum, meaning that we'll probably be about 3 or 4 times a day that is cleaned by the maintenance custodial staff, and in between periods will be cleaned as part of our daily routine in the classrooms. Many teachers as part of the subcommittee had said that that's part of their daily routines anyway in their classrooms prior to the pandemic in March. So I hope that answers your question about the specific what type is being used. And if I have one, I'll find one, Gail. I can actually show you what the wipes look like.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it is good if they can kind of be a little responsible too. Yeah, I certainly as a teacher don't have time to go and wipe everything down, but
Right.
yeah, I think it's a good solution. But then I just know that there's some issues with the safety of them touching it and stuff like
Yes.
that.
Yes.
So, okay, I just wanted to make sure I was just trying to figure that out.
Good question.
Thank you.
So we clearly had a power outage or glitch in our building. So I'm very sorry. I was in the middle of a sentence. Sorry about that. And it took a lot longer than I had hoped to get back on. So I just wanted to finish my thought. If you would just let me, if you wouldn't mind. I just wanted to make sure that it was that I communicated that while Mr. Campbell is an intelligent individual who's tasked with many things here, as you're all aware, I wouldn't want him to feel put in a position to provide an opinion which may or may not be his role to play. And so I respectfully would state that we are working together to ensure the well-being of all parties to open up. And whether we have a momentary opinion one way or the other, we are corporately pursuing opening and are confident to be able to do so.
I had responded, but I'll sum it up by just thanking you both for the work that you put into the reopening plan. I'd send my own children to school, and I in fact am. So,
Well, if I could just add, and I really mean this, I'm not just saying it. There's about 11 people that meet every day. Sometimes it starts at 9 and it goes till noon. So, you know, I'm doing a lot of talking tonight, but there's a lot of people working really hard, and we're excited to be in a position of leadership when there's
Uh-oh.
We lost him.
He's at a loss for words. No. Back?
This is never at a loss for words.
There he is.
Maybe.
Maybe not.
Do you want to move on to our
Yes,
next agenda item?
Well, I'm going to skip number 12 for a minute. Number 13 is other business, discussion about reopening school. I believe that we've discussed that, unless Dr. Ripley, there's more that you feel we need to address at this time.
No, I think that we've discussed it thoroughly. I would just repeat the sentiments, though I don't want to belabor it. The efforts of the administrative team have been considerable, and that extends to Stephen McGrath, Jim Rice, Dan Yardley, June Williams, and all the other parties who I may, and Fran and Dawn, and all the other parties who have been engaged in this profoundly challenging process, so as to stand here before you and ensure the trust of our community in our process and what we're doing.
And we have Mr. Campbell back. Maybe I can ask him one or two questions.
certainly.
I'm assuming you're following the Department of Health and CDC guidelines in all of the plans,
Yes.
and you're complying with all of those? What today's version?
When you get
We're complying with the New Jersey Department of Health and the New Jersey Department of Education, to a lesser extent the CDC, because that's the federal government. They take their cue, obviously. The DOH and the DOE take their cue from the CDC. But our guidelines, according to the governor, come from those two entities. And we believe that we have fulfilled them to the letter.
Okay, I'm going to move on unless there's anything else on the reopening.
Yes, I think I have something to say before we move on from just the discussion about reopening generally. Dr. Ripley, I'll just direct this to you. I mean, I've said this to you in committee and privately, so hopefully this isn't a surprise to you. I just want to encourage you. Last week, the governor decided that schools would have the option whether to open 100% virtually or to do this kind of hybrid plan or whatever. It is my sincere and genuine belief that if schools open, outbreaks are inevitable. I think that this is an impossible situation that we're in, and I share Mr. Dunn's and the board's positions that the administration has done an incredible job of putting together this reopening plan to make sure that students are safe no matter what. But we can't, we're not able to control students' behavior at all times. And I would encourage you, Dr. Ripley, to please consider opening us 100% virtually.
Okay, if there's no other, I'm going to move on from the reopening. I'm sorry, Patty.
Patty, we can't hear
Patty,
you.
we can't hear you.
We cannot hear you.
Maybe try turning your video off and then try talking. Oh, did we lose her?
No, she just
No.
turned the video off.
Still can't hear her.
Well, she's on mute now.
I think she's trying to chat.
Sounds like 2 words. First word.
I'm on my phone. Can anybody see the chat on their computer? Oh, wait.
How are
There's
the virtual students
She
going?
writes, how are the virtual students going to be taught?
Sure, if I could answer that.
Please.
Well, we yesterday put out to all faculty. Am I coming through?
No.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Perhaps, this might we'll try this. All students, whether they're on and be present for each of their, so it's going to be a daunting task for teachers to really manage whether it's the day their cohort, whether hopefully with
Perhaps we should consider Mr. Talamay, if you're able to speak, might you be able to provide us a response regarding that matter, or should we just try to wait for Mr. Campbell?
Sure. So the question was about virtual students and how will they be instructed. So I believe Mr. Campbell left off with, we communicated a expectation of instructional learning out to staff yesterday that we've been working on for many, many weeks. We communicate the same practices out to students and parents. One of the biggest areas of growth that we had from the spring, consistency in what they're seeing in the virtual world on both ends. So staff asking for consistency from the students and parents asking for consistency from the staff as well. So the idea with the virtual students when they're at a cohort that's home is, so I'm in cohort A, Dr. Ripley is in cohort B. I'm going to be live in the classroom, obviously in my cohort on my A day. Dr. Ripley would be learning remotely, and we're going to have teachers have them in basically in an opening session of 10 or 15 minutes where all the class, one virtual, one in seat, will be together. Then there'll be some independent work that they can work on at home, checkpoint along the way for those students that are at home, and then a wrap up closure with those students that are at home as well. So there'll be at least 2 to 3 check-ins with those students while they are working remotely. And at the same time that does not undermine, we don't think, in the ability for teachers to work one-on-one and in small groups with the students that are in front of them. What we didn't want to happen is 52 minutes of instruction and a teacher having to manage the 9 or 10 kids in their class that are in front of them, and then the 10 or 12 kids that are at home on a computer, and technical issues may be getting in the way, and the students that are in front of them in that moment for that day lose out on that time period. So we want that to be valuable for both the teachers and also the students. So it's a blended type of approach. And this is not something that's set in stone. This is based on feedback that we have had from students, parents, and teachers. And we will look to adapt and adjust as we need to along the way. But this is our plan as we roll into in September. Hope that answers your question, Mrs. Nugent.
Is there any other questions? Seeing no other questions,
Patty said thank you. Okay.
seeing no other questions, we'll move on. The next and other business is the board objectives. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the following Board of Education goals for the 2020-2021 school year. Oversee the development and implementation of the district's comprehensive reentry plan following the COVID-19 related quarantine. Particular board focus will be applied to the reentry plan's accommodation of fiscal, operational, and facility needs. And 2, during the 2020 calendar year and over the next several years, the High Point Regional High School Board of Education shall complete 4 credits per year and a total of 16 in 4 years so as to earn board certification from New Jersey School Boards Association. Do we have anybody who wants to move that?
I move it.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, can we have a roll call?
Mrs. Anderson?
You're muted, Debbie.
That's okay, just shake your head.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Ankliff?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent? Okay. Mr. Dona?
Yes.
And Dr. Kehoe?
Yes. The next, be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the following district goals for the 2020-2021 school year. Develop and implement a comprehensive reentry plan for the safe and successful return to school following the COVID-19 related quarantine. This reentry plan will also encompass the district's preparedness for a wide range of possible scenarios should subsequent health-related emergencies require responsiveness. 2, engage in continuous and meaningful collaboration with a broad range of community stakeholders in order to ensure that our reentry plan leverages the expertise and diverse perspectives of the community, reflects the specific needs of the district, and that related procedures are communicated in a timely and effective manner. And 3, develop and implement an instructional technology plan which encompasses the need for increased access and flexibility for staff and students. Do I have somebody who wants to move that?
I'll move.
Move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Ankliff?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent? Mr. Dona?
Yes.
And Dr. Kehoe?
Yes. We're going to move on to action items. And Ms. Anderson, if you would lead us off with curriculum.
Okay. I'm going to move items 1 through 17.
Woohoo.
But
Nice.
happy to take comments as we go through them once I've gotten through the first time. We can go back and talk about them all. Item 1 is about changing the district calendar, school calendar, so that January 18th is now going to be the Monday, August 31st in-service day, taking the January 18th off of the calendar. That'll be everybody home because they needed the extra day before school started. Item number 2, recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education recognizes there are no curricular field trips. Item number 3, recommended by the superintendent that the board approves professional development activities on the attached roster. Item number 4, that the Board of Education approves the revised reopening plan. Item number 5, It's recommended by the superintendent that the board approves the following students listed on the inter-district choice and on-roll and other list that we have there in front of us. Item number 6, it's recommended by the superintendent that the board approve the revised 2020-21 program of studies, as was explained by Mr. Campbell. Item number 7, it's recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves having virtual substitute orientation on Wednesday, August 26th. Item number 8, that we approve the annual comprehensive equity plan statement of assurance for 2020 and 2021, completed by the affirmative action team. Item number 9, recommended by the superintendent that the board approves the professional services agreement with Pass It Along, paid through the Title I grant. Item number 10, it's recommended that the Board of Ed authorizes the use of the 2013 Danielson framework and the Marshall Principal Evaluation rubric to evaluate staff and administration during the 2021 school year. Item number 11, recommended by the superintendent that we approve the Quality Single Accountability Continuum CUSAC team members as listed. Item 12, recommended by the superintendent that we approve the EduSeer Online as home instruction provider for the 2020-2021 school year. Item 13, recommended that the board approves proximity learning to provide the Spanish instruction from September 3rd until November 16th, 2020. Item number 14 is recommended that we approve the staff handbook for the 2020-21 school year. Item 15, that we approve the student handbook for the 2020-2021 school year. And item 16, recommended by the superintendent that the board approve the use of Rubicon Atlas curriculum maps, as was explained by Mr. Campbell. And item 17, recommended that the board approve the use of personal growth and professional development site called teachercoach.com. Moving those 17, I need a second.
Second.
Anybody want to talk about any of them?
I'm just going to say that, reflecting what I just said a minute or two ago, I will be voting against item number 4, not because I think it's an inadequate plan for reopening, not because I think it's an unsafe plan for reopening, but because I believe it should be amended to make it 100% virtual opening.
Anybody else have any questions or something they want to point out or ask about? Okay.
I'm sorry, Debbie, I couldn't hit the button fast enough. Number 9, the pass it along.
Yes.
Mr. Ripley, you might be able to answer this. If I read it correctly, it's calling for a 3-day in-class type of presentation to our students. Is that something that we have time to do with the new truncated in-class schedule? And is that something we should be prioritizing at this particular year?
So we just went over our board of goals and our district goals. And so one of the things we've talked about is that the circumstances in which we find ourselves and our students find ourselves, we need to ensure social emotional learning is a priority. And so when we partner with this group, we're focusing on ensuring the students about whom we don't read about statistics or data. We have a generation now of children who have experienced loss on a level about that we didn't experience, or I didn't experience, or my generation didn't experience. And so we believe that they are going to have needs this year for what has occurred in the last 6 months and what is occurring in their world right now. And so I think that, one second. I think that is our focus being on social emotional learning, provides some context. It's the key, and we're going to do that at the end of September. They have a perfect plan for them to come in for 4 days and do it with all students. Mr. Dexter worked out a schedule with phys ed where they will come in and work over 40. It should be it's with over 40, and it should be in person. And we believe that it fits with our goals and addresses needs that are always acute with students, but are far more acute now given the circumstances. So it is in line with our goal and our vision, and we have a plan to implement it in person that we believe is appropriate and will be effective for our students.
Am I correct in saying that although it's a 3 or 4 day plan, I forget what it said, Joe, that every kid isn't going to be in that for all that time? That group is coming for those times, but each kid is going to have a certain
Yes.
class period with that group.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
anybody else? Click your button or forever hold your peace.
I'm going to mention one other thing with regard to number 4 also. I agree with Spencer that I think it should have been virtual. However, we don't run the school, the administration does. I defer to them. And like Macbeth, I think we're in too deep to turn back now. I just hope and pray that we are able to stay open and it's not an effort in futility like many other schools and colleges are learning. But that's fine. The whole thing is the best interest, the health, safety, and welfare of the school, of the students and the administration and teachers. And hopefully that plan will take care of them.
Anyone else? Roll call?
All right. Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe,
Yes.
Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes to all except item 4.
Got it. Miss Nugent, Ms. Tadona,
Yes.
and Dr. Kehoe.
Yes. The next action item is personnel. Mr. Dona?
I'm going to look to move items 1 through 8. Number 1, it's recommended by the superintendent that the board approves the following substitutes as listed. And they're substitute teachers, the substitute secretaries, substitute nurses, bus drivers, etc. Item number 2, it's recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the following home instructors for the 2020-2021 school year as listed. Number 3, in accordance with the terms of the HPEA agreement, the following individuals have provided the appropriate verification required for the advancement on the guide for the 2020-2021 school year as listed. There are 4 of them. Number 4, it is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves an in-district longevity salary adjustment in the accordance with the HPAA contract for Christopher Dexter, the athletic director, supervisor of health and PE, as listed. And number 5, it's recommended that the board approves Ms. Catherine Goodman as a physical science teacher as listed. And number 6, that the board approves Mr. James Rice as the district homeless liaison. Number 7, that the board approves Ms. Catherine Westerfield, substitute school nurse, to assist with sports physicals in lieu of the formally approved substitute nurse. And number 8, that it's recommended that the board approves the 6-period assignments for the 2020-2021 school year as listed. I have a Can I have a second?
Debbie.
Okay. Any discussion?
If I could, on number 3, could I have an understanding, Dr. Ripley, of these 4 individuals are continuing their education or training for their fields of teaching?
Yes, for their assigned area of teaching, yes. And they are matriculated in a specific graduate program in the area in which they're assigned.
I give them a lot of credit and the school a lot of credit for sponsoring them and supporting them to continue their education.
Any other discussion or questions?
On number 5, Miss Goodman, who's joining us as a physical science teacher, is that with the intent of picking up some of the teaching responsibilities of retiring physical science teachers?
Yeah, it became necessary because this is an area in which these are difficult. Teachers with this certification are very difficult to find, and we just had one retire that we approved at our last meeting. So our ability to be able to hire someone who we believe is going to be very good for our students is actually a tremendous win. So she will be replacing an individual who left.
Any other discussion or questions? Roll call?
All right. Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Ms. Nugent,
Said
Ms.
yes.
Dona,
Yes.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe,
Yes.
and Dr. Kehoe.
Yes. The next action item is extracurricular. Mr. Arnold?
I'm going to move items 1, 2, and 3 all at once. Number 1, it is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves, pending clearance through High Point's Director of Safety and Security, the individuals listed below as volunteers for the fall play and spring musical during the 2021 school year. As listed, those names. It is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves vendor payments for the fall drama to the individuals as listed. Deanne Sorchik, $150 for photography. Lance Sorchik, $300 for poster design and program layout. Lori Reeder, $850 lighting design and hang focus. And Rose Riccardi, $650 for set design. And item number 3, it is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the resignation of Mr. Christopher Dexter from the positions of assistant boys basketball coach and head boys tennis coach effective for the 2021 school year. Make a motion seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just had a question with regards to item number 2. And Dr. Ripley, again, I guess I'd pose this question to you. Are we going to be able to have a fall play under the current circumstances? And if we are not, are we obligated to pay these vendors the amounts listed if there is no fall play?
That's an excellent question. My response is I believe that because they are outside vendors, I don't believe that if there is no fall play, that we would be obligated to pay those stipends because they are not contractual to as a for a staff member.
Okay.
However, imagine when the fall play is canceled, if these people have all done their jobs for 2 months and then they don't get to put on the production. I mean, I don't know, if they've done all the stuff, that they've taken the picture and put together the program and.
Oh, I would if they did provide services, I would recommend the payment.
Okay. So I understand then, Joe, what you're talking about, right?
Again, I hope there is a fall play.
Yes.
They're always excellent, and I
Yes.
really do hope there is. I was just curious, just speaking from a financial aspect, that's all.
Right. Because we ran into this in the spring where we had contracts, and even though people weren't able to fulfill their contracts because we weren't in school, we still were obligated to pay when they didn't do it, because not of any fault of their own. But in this case, if they aren't able to do it because there's no fall drama, then we don't have to pay them. But if they do produce all of this work and then it gets canceled at the last minute, we would pay them. That's kind of what we're saying.
That's what I would recommend. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe,
Yes.
Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Ms. Nugent, Mr. Dona,
Yes.
and Dr. Kehoe.
He texted me that he was
Yes.
frozen. Oh,
I
yeah,
just got back on. Sorry about that.
no
I'm
problem.
looking for heads to shake.
Yeah. Okay, I guess I'll go on with the policy. We only have 2 items. It's item number 1. I'm going to move both of them. It's recommended by the superintendent, the Board of Education approves the first reading of the following new policy about the remote learning options for families. And number 2, it's recommended by the superintendent that the board approves the second reading of the following policies. Attachment D2.A, policy 1648 to the restart and recovery plan. The attachment D2B, policy 1649, Federal Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
All right. Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold. Spencer, yes? All right,
He's frozen.
he's frozen. Miss Nugent,
Yes.
Oh, I
Ms.
just.
Jonah?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, there's Spencer.
Yep.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Ankler,
Yes.
and Dr. Kehoe.
Yes. The next action item is negotiations, and the agenda says there's no items at this time. Next action item is building and grounds. Ms. Nugent?
Oh, she can't really talk.
Okay, I didn't think so. So I said it with a question mark.
Do you want?
Does somebody want to fill in for Ms. Nugent?
I can do it if you want.
All right, thank you.
All right, there are two items. I'm going to move both items. It's recommended by the superintendent that the board approves the disposal of an extractor that no longer works and can be repaired. And number two, it's recommended by the board that the board approves the IE Associates Incorporated to submit the updated amended long-range facility plan to the New Jersey Department of Education on behalf of the High Point Regional Board of Education. Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, what's an extractor?
When you do the rug, you know, when it takes the water out?
Ah,
Ah,
it's the sucky thing. Okay,
yeah, I didn't want to say that.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. What was the update that was done to the long-range facility plan? I don't remember seeing an update or being updated on the long-range facility plan.
So I sent to the Buildings and Grounds Committee following our meeting this week that we learned that our long-range facility plan was not submitted to the state as we had believed it to have been. Therefore, we needed to get this board approved now so that we could submit the long-range facility plan to the state so that they could approve our oil tank removal plans and HVAC plans.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, roll call, please.
All right. Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Mr. Ankliff,
Yes.
Miss Nugent.
Shaking her head.
That's all right. Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Tadona,
Yes.
and Dr. Kehoe.
Yes. Finance, Mr. Dunn?
Sure. Okay, in finance, I would like to move all items 1 through 13 together. Item 1 is a recommendation to accept the report of the Board Secretary Business Administrator for the month of July 2020. Item 2 is a recommendation to accept the revised report of the Board Secretary Business Administrator for the month of June 2020. That's a revision. Item 3 is a recommendation to accept the report of the Treasurer for July 2020. Sorry, that was 3. Item 4 is a recommendation to approve the report of the transfers and minimum expense transfer account for the month of July 2020. Item 5 is a recommendation that the board approves the revised report of transfers for the month of June 2020. That again is a revision that goes along with item 2, I believe. Item 6 is a recommendation to approve for payment the attached schedule of audited bills dated August 18, 2020. Item 7 is a recommendation to accept the adult education agency account, cafeteria account, principal's petty cash account, scholarship account, school store account, and school student activities for the month of July 2020. Item 8 is a recommendation to accept the principal's petty cash scholarship account and student activities account for the month of June 2020. Those were not present in the previous month's approvals. Item 9 is a recommendation that the board approves the agreement between the Sussex Vocational Board of Education and High Point Regional High School for educational services at the tuition rate $2,271 per student multiplied by the estimated annually daily enrollment for the 2020-2021 school year. And 10 is a recommendation that the board approves an agreement with Camden County Educational Services to provide professional services on an as-needed basis during 2020-2021 school year. Item 11 is a recommendation to approve an agreement between the Ed Services Commission of Morris County and High Point Regional School Board of Education to provide health and environmental services, safety services as needed for 2020-2021 school year. Item 12 is a recommendation the board approves the purchase of number 2 fuel oil from Rackley's/Michelle's Oil Company per state contract for the 2020-2021 school year. Item 13 is a recommendation the board approves the following tuition contracts between High Point Regional as ascending and the following districts as listed. And that is all. So I make the motion on items 1 through 13, seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion on any of those items? Seeing none, may I have a roll call, please?
All right. Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe,
Yes.
Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Ms. Nugent, Mr. Dona,
Yes.
Dr. Kehoe.
Yes. The next action item is transportation. Mr. Caraza?
I'd like to move items 1 through 4 together. Item 1, recommended to the board by the superintendent that we approve and authorize the execution of the following contracts for renewal for the 2021 school year as listed. Item number 2 is again a recommendation by the superintendent that we approve and authorize the execution of the following renewal contracts for transportation of students for the 2021 school year as listed. Item number 3, again, another recommendation by the superintendent that the board approve and authorize the execution of the following renewal contracts for transportation of students for the 2021 school year as listed. Number 4 is a recommendation by the superintendent that the board approve and authorize the execution of the following renewal contracts for transportation of students for the 2021 school year as listed. I'm sorry, I was moving items 1 through 4, I said, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any, do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on items 1 through 4? Seeing none, I'd ask for a roll call.
All right. Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Ms. Nugent, Mr. Dona,
Yes.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe,
Yes.
Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Dr. Kehoe.
Yes.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to move the remaining items 5 through 11 altogether. Number 5 is a recommendation that the board approve and authorize the execution of the following renewal contracts for the transportation of students for the 2021 school year as listed. Number 6 is a recommendation by the superintendent to approve and authorize the execution of the following contract addendum for additional mileage for the 2021 school year as listed. Item number 7 is a recommendation by the superintendent to approve and authorize to award the routes to the lowest and/or only bidder for transportation for the 2021 school year as listed. Item number 8 is a recommendation by the superintendent to approve and authorize the execution of the following contracts awarded to the lowest bid and only bid from bid number 2020-21-01 for the 2020-21 school year as listed. Item number 9 is a recommendation to approve and authorize the execution of a parental contract with the listed student ID for transportation for the 2021 school year as listed. Item number 10 is a recommendation to approve and authorize the execution of another parental contract with the parents of student ID 450-298-8293 for transportation to attend the MCST Academy for Environmental Sciences at Jefferson Township High School is listed. And finally, number 11 is again a recommendation to approve and authorize the execution of the joint transportation agreements for parent contracts for transportation of 2 students for the 2021 school year as listed. Do I have a second?
Second.
Anybody have any discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask for a roll call.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe,
Yes.
Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Miss Nugent, Ms. Tadona,
Yes.
and Dr. Kehoe.
Yes. The next item is long-term planning, and there's no item listed for this agenda. The next is legal. And there's one item on legal. It is recommended by the superintendent, that the Board of Education approves the amendment to the settlement agreement between the Board of Education and AA and MA, O/B/O AAA, which reflects a change in the student's placement and savings to the board in the amount of $980. Can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Ancliffe,
Yes.
Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Miss Nugent, Ms. Tadona,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
and Dr. Kehoe.
Yes. Number 15, correspondence. The board received a thank you card from Samuel Orr. He was a scholarship recipient. He states it'll be put to good use towards his education at Clemson University. Number 16, miscellaneous. New Jersey School Board Association's 2020 workshop. The New Jersey School Board's workshop is virtual this year. If anyone is interested in attending, please let the board office know at your earliest convenience. Finally, school board mandated training. Please make sure you're up to date on your mandated training and contact the board office if you need to schedule any. Finally, we're going to move on to 17, public comments. We have got some public comments. It's earlier, and I'm going to read them. The first comment is from Joey Kopaninsky from Wantage. He states the CDC has stated the MERV 14 filters are necessary and wondering what High Point has done in terms of filtration for safety of their students and staff. What PPE is High Point providing to their staff? What is the liability and protocol from the district if a staff member or student passes away from COVID-19? The next comment is from Carla Mancuso, HPEA president and current special education teacher at High Point. She states students should not be cleaning. Teachers should not be cleaning. What is the plan really? What is the liability of the staff and students cleaning? Carla Mancuso, staff is in for PD on MLK Day, usually. The next comment is from Arthur Mina, teacher of science, coach and advisor at High Point Regional High School. With respect to the elimination of exams, how do we handle concurrent enrollment classes that have an exam component as a requirement for credit from the participating colleges? The next comment is from Carla Mancuso. CDC just released new guidelines for schools. The next comment is from Arthur Mina. What is the plan for training the staff in the use of the new tools that virtual learning will employ, such as Google Classroom add-ons and similar platforms, breakout rooms, etc.? The next question is from Raquel Kappelmeyer. Not all parents will take their temperature. Some are not even home in the morning. The next comment is from Carl Mancuso. Superintendent's signature goes on the document. Ask him. Refer to the NJEA checklist that the school plan has compared to. No questions, specifics lacking. Next comment is Carlton Hensel. Has the phys ed areas been addressed in terms of ventilation? The next comment is Tracy Shoger. Parents are known to send kids to school when they don't feel well under normal circumstances, and we are supposed to trust that they will all take temperatures on the daily. Next comment is Carlton Hensel. If athletics has to take temperatures every day prior to practice, why shouldn't we do the same for staff and students? Next comment from Justine Regal, math teacher, High Point. Will the hallways be one direction only? Next comment from Rachel Kappelmeyer. Temperature should be taken when a student or staff member enters the school. I don't want to put my child at risk by counting on what other parents are doing or not doing. Also before entering a bus. Joey Mr. Konopsky, I apologize. There's a reason this board meeting is being held virtually when students and staff are expected to return to the district with hundreds of students in person. Is there also a reason the substitute meeting is being held virtually as well days before students and staff return? Laura Carr, Laura. With a little bit of technology, issues that we experienced during this meeting alone, it will be very interesting to see how this will be handled when one or more student/teacher has connection issues during their school day and how that will affect them. I have to say, I'm not satisfied with virtual will go well at all. Joseph Konopinski. How is High Point staying in compliant with IEP students who remain virtual? Kevin Matthews.
Lost him.
No.
Does anybody else have access to that list of comments?
Having this much, imagine you are a teacher, ask the building and another cohort virtually. We are rushing. Arthemina.
Bill, you're bouncing in and out.
I have the comments.
help
Would you like
him.
me to read them?
Yeah, that might be good, Scott, because he keeps going in and out.
Would you like me
Thank
to
you.
read? Okay. I'll go back to the one that I think was, we started the out on. Kevin Matthews says 15 minutes online virtual does no justice for IEP kids. Why can't they stay online entire time? James Matthews from Wantage. Art Mina, if you are having this much trouble as a small, simple meeting, imagine you are a teacher tasked with teaching a class of students in the building and another cohort virtually. We are rushing. Art Mina, now try to add meaningful content to these classes while trying to protect yourselves and your families at the same time. Caitlin Logan, what is going to be done for freshmen to keep them with their first day since there will be no orientation day? Joe Konopinski. You are never too late to change the plan. Over 140 districts around New Jersey have switched to a remote learning model. Tracy Schauger, parent, Wantage, New Jersey. All remote learning will certainly harm our children's education and futures. And that's the end of the comments.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you for helping out. Am I back on?
Yes,
Okay,
for the moment.
for the moment. Thank you, Tom. Number 18, non-committee board members' reports or comments. Are there any non-committee board members' reports or comments? Seeing none?
Yeah, no, actually, real quick one.
Good.
What is preventing us from going, from having our meetings on site with public comments still coming in? Can we at this point return to socially distanced on-site meetings?
Yes, certainly someone could make an argument if you're going to open up in 2 weeks, why are you virtual now? Because we're not opening it up today. We still have 2 weeks and protocols to put in place to ensure the absolute integrity of the environment. It is our intention to proceed with on-site meeting in September, but for the full context of the decision, we thought it was most appropriate to maintain the virtual through August, as we still have some restrictions to the building as it is currently, and we believe in the best interest and safety of all to wait until September to do so.
Well, there would be unnecessary costs in having to open up a portion of the facilities for us to have an on-site meeting, understand? So,
Right.
but as of September, we intend at this point.
That would be the plan, yes. It would also require us to then re-clean the area that anyone entered. And while that's what we're going to do every single day, beginning in September, we just thought that maintaining the construct through August was not inappropriate.
Could I make a comment?
Yes.
We also, next Tuesday, I forgot to mention that in addition to having our 4th at-large reopening task force meeting, and our hope is to have it in the media center, we also that morning will have an event for stakeholders called a Walk in Their Shoes, where we will invite select board members, parents, students, staff to walk through an experience from riding the bus, wearing a mask, sitting in the classroom, having your completing a form before entering the building, kind of mimicking for a few hours what the student experience will be like. So both that event and that evening's at-large meeting, our plan at this time is for those to be on site.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? If not, other business. Fran, we normally have a Oprah request section here.
Yeah, we didn't have any at all this month, so.
There were
I
no
left
Oprah
it.
requests? Thank you. They're saying no other items on the agenda. Do we have a motion to end the meeting?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing no one opposed? Thank you, everyone, for the meeting.